This is an Allied Mic production.
All right. Hey, how's it going? Welcome to Boring Title. I'm Latney with Allied Title. Really excited to have Jon Carcone, the CEO of Four Brothers Buy Houses, with us. We've been working with Jon for a few years, and he's got an awesome business because what I think is really interesting, Jon, I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about yourself, but also how open you are to sharing what you do with like on Facebook, social media. You're really good at collaborating with your competitors, I would say. But yeah, tell me about yourself and kind of why you do that.
Yeah, sure. So my name's Jon Carcone, Four Brothers Buy Houses, and came from a sales background, worked at a management consulting company in the DC area called Corporate Executive Board, and I did sales for them for like 8 or 9 years, and just wanted to work for myself. And I saw real estate as one of the ways to do that, and the people that did real estate did not seem as impressive as people that do other things like stock trading and stuff like that, where I didn't think I could compete nearly as well. And I saw people in real estate, and I said, I can probably do that if they can. And so I just picked real estate, and just took me like 2.5 years to be able to get to the point where I could do it full time. This was around 2012 that I finally went full time with it, after I found a good mentor and found a good market within this DC area to kind of target. And so that's kind of how I got into it. In terms of why I share what I do, so I try to just have an abundance mentality just in everything, that, the more that I give, the more that I'll get back. Just choose to believe that, as opposed to believing more of a competitive or scarcity kind of thing that I have to hold tightly onto what's mine and I can't share or it's going to hurt me. So I just prefer to live the other way. It just like feels better, even if it's not true, but I think it is. And people reach out to me. I'm a little more well-known that way. And so it might be other investors that want to collaborate with us in some way, might be with just other contacts that are useful to us in some way. So yeah, it just seems to be beneficial, and I don't think I'm losing anything or very much by doing it competitively. So, screw it, why not?
Hey, I mean, it's a good point. At the end of the day, there's a lot of books on how to be successful, and not everyone does it, right? So, I mean, I love your philosophy, and we've seen it because we see you have a lot of different partners and a lot of different deals because you are so collaborative. So for the people out there that don't know, just tell us a little bit about, Four Brothers Buy Houses, and, are you at the same place now as you were when you first started? Has your business pivoted at all? What does that look like?
Yeah, so when I first started, it was, a whole different world, 2011 and 2012. I mean, I remember driving through, Capitol Heights in Prince George's County, and, every other house was vacant pretty much. I mean, this was like the depths of the foreclosure crisis. I mean, it was like, post-nuclear Holocaust kind of like scene going on. It was crazy. And that's when I got started, and was very lucky that happened, because I was able to ride the wave up pretty much the whole time. But at that time, you could buy stuff just on the MLS. So this whole deal sourcing thing, which is 90% of what makes a wholesaler or a rehabber successful now, was a hell of a lot easier back then, because you could just pick stuff up on the MLS. So I was literally spending maybe an hour or two a day on sourcing, and I was able to get, by the time I was a few years into it in 2014, 15, up to about 20 houses a year. And I could have done a lot more. I just stopped trying to get deals at some point. So it's just much, much easier back then, really good time to get started. And so built up my rehabbing operation to get to 20, 25 deals over a few years, and just kind of stayed there for a while. I was kind of happy. I was making a good income. I didn't have to really work that much. The sourcing was pretty easy. So kind of 2014, 15, 16, I busted my ass to try to go full time for 3 or 4 years. So I was ready to take a break and ready to enjoy the flexibility and the freedom that having your own business kind of affords you. And so I just kind of did some fun stuff and traveled around a little bit. And then around 2016, I was like, well, let me see if I can make this into a real business. And so mid 2017, I hired my first real employee. Before that, it was like the Tim Ferriss 4-hour work week kind of situation, where it was just working as little as possible, making a good income, having maximum autonomy, maximum flexibility, and just a ton of virtual assistants, virtual employees. So I still keep, even to this day, a ton of virtual employees. But in 2017, finally hired my first real, like local, true employee to help me out. And over 2018, we grew to like 9 or 10 people. Plus we tried to launch a brokerage at the same time, got up to like 10 or 15 agents, had an office space in Roslyn, like, real company stuff in 2018. And then found that I didn't like that. And so we scaled back down. We lost a few people, but mainly we just shut the brokerage down and focused back on our core specialty and where we make most of our money, which is in the investing side of things, rehabbing and wholesaling. And got rid of the office because we just didn't like to go to an office every day. I thought it was boring. And we're a lot happier now. Everybody's virtual. We're 100% virtual. And we have a much better quality of life. And we are netting, as much, if not more, than we did when we had a full, real bigger kind of operation. So, and then
you were ahead of the COVID times. So you went virtual before COVID made us all go virtual.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It was. I mean, I've been nervous about the market since 2016.
Yeah,
I thought we were due for a downturn since 2016. So I've been way early, and I've missed opportunity because of that. Like, I probably should have been more aggressive in retrospect. But because of that, like, I didn't feel comfortable in 2018 when I had all that overhead and the office space and all these obligations. So that was another reason why I was like, I knew where there's going to be a downturn. Of course, you never know when or why, but I knew there was going to be. So I also just felt a lot more comfortable having less overhead and a much more variable kind of overhead situation in 2019. So yeah, I mean, it just kind of lucked out. I mean, I definitely didn't know it was coming, but I knew it was coming eventually.
That's great. So for people that don't know, and when you started your business, when you were doing 20 deals a year, were you buying them and rehabbing all of those and then reselling them?
Yeah.
Is that right? And then over the years, you started doing wholesaling. And then I believe, tell me if I'm wrong, now you pretty much only do wholesaling. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So yeah, like in 2018, it's kind of the same thing. Like I just didn't feel comfortable owning 12, 14 properties at one time, under renovation, to be under contract to be sold. It's just a lot of exposure, millions and millions of dollars worth of just exposure between my money and lender money. And I was like, if there's like crazy 2008 style downturn where it drops, 15 or 20% over the course of a year or something like that, it just made me feel very uncomfortable to have that much exposure. Just personally, I'm a more conservative kind of person. I'm risk averse. I'm like a little scaredy cat pretty much. And so I was like, let me transition to where I have virtually no risk because I never take a property down, which is in wholesaling. So yeah, 2018 and 2019 was that transition period where I was going from maybe 25% or 30% wholesale to 75% wholesale probably last year to now, 100% or 99% wholesale probably this year. So yeah, that was a big transition and difficult because your margins aren't nearly as good when you wholesale because it's smaller profit margin and it's smaller profit per deal and you have more overhead to get those deals and you're only getting probably half of the profit in the deal yourself. The other half you give to the rehabber that buys it for you. So the margins are lower and you have more overhead, but you just don't have that capital risk of actually having to take the properties down. So for me, I just like it better.
Awesome. And I'm going to keep this interview going because this is so interesting. And I know there's people out there that are interested in flipping and wholesaling, pros and cons. And I think you kind of said one of the problems with rehabbing is you have a lot of risk out there. You got a lot of loans. Your timing worked out pretty amazingly that you were completely in wholesaling by the time COVID happened, right? So tell me a little bit about the name. Tell me about Four Brothers. How did the name come about? What does that look like, in comparative to how you're set up today?
Yeah. So yeah, when I first started, I thought my brothers were going to be a lot more involved. They ended up being. So at the beginning, I thought we were all going to kind of do it sort of together. They each contributed a little bit of money when I kind of got started. So that's kind of where that name kind of came into play. My two brothers ended up starting a property management company shortly after we started this. And my other brother just kind of wanted more of the corporate kind of thing. So they're not really involved today, but they were involved kind of at the beginning. And that's where the name comes from. And, once you have all your logos and marketing material and stuff, it's kind of a pain in the ass to change it. So I just left it.
Well, it's definitely, one of the top, I feel like, 3 brands in the wholesaling business in this area for sure. You're all over the place. Tell me about, so I've seen you share your hey, here's how we do our sales reports. Here's how we contact people. Have you had an instance where you got a deal that you can think of based on someone reaching out and you create a relationship Because I think that's really interesting to people that hold stuff really tight. They don't want to share anything. It's like, if you want to figure out how Allied Title has grown over the last 4 years to over 25 employees and 300 deals a month, just go to our homepage and we kind of tell you what we do. So, I mean, but not many people are willing to go and do the work, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Most people won't do it, right? I mean, you can spoon feed it to them with the step-by-step plan. I mean, and still 99% of people just aren't going to do it. And that's kind of the new school. You know what I mean? The new school is like, just put your shit out there, put your art out there, put your knowledge out there, and it's going to come back to you with benefits. The old school is the more competitive and more close to the chest kind of thing. So I just believe in this kind of new school thing. And even if it slightly hurts me, you're helping people, and helping people is always a good thing. So even if there was zero, business benefit to it, the fact that you're benefiting people by sharing your knowledge is just a good thing to do. So I just, it's kind of a personal philosophical thing. It's hard to really prove one way or the other, but certainly in terms of have we gotten deals from it? Yeah, I mean, we get a ton of deals from other investors in this marketplace who contact us and want to sell their deals in partnership with us because of how good our buyers list is. So we'll partner with any investor in the marketplace. We'll sell their deals to our list, give them the bulk of the profit, and they'll make more money typically with us than they do on their own. And we now get, over 5 or 6 deals every month from other investors. And a big part of why investors are willing to work with us and trust us with their deals is because they've seen us on social media. They've seen that we are for real because I post, real numbers and stuff like that. So I don't think that would have happened, without these years of kind of sharing more openly what I do and how I do it.
I love it. COVID, how is COVID? Did things slow down? Have they picked back up? How has it changed the wholesaling business?
Yeah, COVID's been really tough. I mean, a wholesaling business gets crushed on the dip. When the market starts going down, wholesalers get crushed because the investor and buyers that you're selling your deals to, they pivot very quickly. They're pretty savvy. And right away, they'll want to buy it for way less of a price than they were before. And they're going to respond very quickly. The sellers you're buying from don't respond nearly as fast. It takes them a lot longer to understand what's happening with the market, to emotionally accept the fact that their house is worth less now than it was before. So there's that dip because your sellers don't want to take less money, and your buyers want to buy it for way less money. So there goes your profit margin. And that's typical in every downturn from my understanding of talking to people that have been doing this longer than me. It's logical. That's what I was expecting, and that's exactly what happened. So we had all this inventory that we would have been able to sell, and we had, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of profit in it, and we got maybe 40% of what we were expecting in like the March, April timeframe. So it was a huge, we made half of what we were expecting, and maybe as low as 40%. And so it's brutal. And so the last 3 months, I wanted to keep everybody on my team employed, and we were able to do that, which I'm happy about. But, made no money. We didn't lose money, but we made no money. So, working for 3 months, making no money is not fun.
I hear you. So, advice, you're obviously very transparent. So advice for the readers out there, someone wants to get into wholesaling. If you had to give them, advice, 3 top tips on where to start, what would you recommend?
So one thing I would say is do all the unpaid marketing that you can. So one of the easiest things to do that I always recommend is just do driving for dollars, as we call it in the business, where you're just driving around, you're identifying properties that look run down, that look possibly vacant, they have high grass, they're in disrepair. You write the address down. You can sign up for any number of skip tracing services like Skipio or Locate Plus that are inexpensive. You can find the owner, typically their information through that, including their phone number, and you just build a database. 50, 100, 200, you probably need 300 or 400 properties, so it'll take you a few months. Skip trace them, and then you got to do the stuff nobody wants to do, which is cold call. And that's for somebody just who has time but no money. That's the way to get started. If you have more money than you do time, then you can go to a number of list broker services out there like ListSource. You can just pull a list of owners that have equity, that have owned their properties for a long time. There's 1,000 direct mail services out there, and you can just start sending out direct mail in our market, it's about 7 to 10,000 is the cost per deal to acquire a deal right now. So that's a lot of mail, so you have to be willing to put up, up to 10, maybe even 15 grand before you say it's not working, because that's what it very well might take, especially when you don't know what you're doing when you're new. So depending if you have time or if you have money, those are two ways. And the other thing for both people that have time and money is you got to find somebody to help you and mentor you. And to do that, you just have to offer value, be willing to do the grunt work for somebody that knows what they're doing, to where they'll want to take time and try to help you out, because it is difficult, very difficult, I think, to get started on this on your own, even with all the resources available. Like, you got to either pay for a mentor, or you got to go, serve, be of service to somebody and and earn yourself a mentor.
Love it. So if people out there that might have a house they want to sell or maybe partner with you on, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
Yeah, just go to fourbrothersbyhouses.com. It's our website. You can just Google it. It's the number 4 Brothers by Houses. And we have a contact us and a phone number, so you can just call us up there. And yeah, we'd be happy to, certainly buy anybody's house. And certainly any investors out there, partner with you, joint venture with you, sell your deal to our list. We have, 30,000 buyers on there now. And typically we can get more money by selling to our list, even after a split with us, than just on your own if you don't have a great list. So happy to talk to anybody.
That's awesome, man. Well, hey, really appreciate it. Thank you for working with us over the years, and thanks for being open about your business. It's really interesting. I know our audience will love it. Appreciate the time. I look forward to talking to you soon, man.
Yeah, thanks, man.